So yeah, there's lots of things that make my mind bloom. The battle in cancer, I think, which was the biggest one um, for me. I can really only speak to myself. Was the mental impact. I think that the whole experience, there's nothing good about it. Um, but I think that the mental impact is sometimes under discussed and overlooked, especially the post-treatment piece. Obviously you go in, you've been told cancer, you go through treatment, and at that point, we're just surviving, So, going through chemo for me, it was literally just taking it hour by hour, every morning getting up to go in and get, I was getting bags of hydration every single day, chemo every 3 weeks, and it was survival. So you're kind of in this mindset of, I've just got to get through this. And then once you finish up with that treatment, and you're used to seeing like your oncologist twice a week, 3 times a week, and you kind of go to like a month, and it's like you're released into the wild to return to your new normal. But you've just gone through this massive trauma of like survival, and then you go back in and your life's not the same, and I think that's one of the big conversations I have with a lot of people in the community, is that piece after, because you've just gone through one of the most traumatic things that can happen to anyone in their lifetime. And then we're just freed into the world, and, there's so much discussion about, oh, you're a survivor, and so great. But you're grieving, you're grieving. For me, I will never be the person that I was before, because, one, I've done a lot of growth and I don't want to go back to my old lifestyle, but also even if I wanted to, my body won't allow it. I am not as, I used to run marathons, I used to box, all of these things. And one day I might get back to that. But at the moment, my body just, it's tired. Still, the body's so tired. So, you're grieving a past version of yourself. And I think that that's definitely overlooked, because you don't just go into remission and it's over. And I think that's, I'm sure that, for yourself, once you get into this world, this conception of, oh, cancer, breast cancer, it's the same. Everyone has different cancer. Everyone reacts differently.
Yes.
And you realize that, like, everyone has different treatment plans. Everybody, it's just such a big, scope of a disease. And then you've got to take into account previous traumas before any of this even happened. And I'm really passionate, and I don't know where it'll go, but I'm definitely looking into post-treatment workshops, groups, and almost I've seen some groups that are doing, trying to help engage people to find work post-treatment, all of these different things, so we can be reintroduced to the world, but not in the same capacity that we were. Because, for me especially, my wake-up call was like, I don't need to be working, 800 million hours a week. So, there's so much research to be done in that, but definitely, I was a mental health advocate before this experience, and, even more so now. There's just so much work to be done.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for mentioning gardening. We always jump on each other's posts every time there's a little flower.
I just, it just brings, I think that connection to nature. And look, we're both city girls now, and it's easy to sort of separate yourself from nature being in the city, but caring for, and being close to nature, there really is something so therapeutic and teaching in that about life. You know, plants repair themselves, you know, they go through dark winters and lose their leaves, and it's just been a really nice lesson on life. But yeah, no, we definitely talk about rescuing plants off our street.
Rescuing plants from the streets. I haven't this week yet.
Yet. Still time.
This whole idea you were mentioning of time and patience, which is so important to me. I lack so much, although I work on it, right? And just waiting for that bloom and knowing that that bloom is going to happen despite of snow that we have here. You guys don't, but of snow and winter hibernation and all that. And there's that little bloom in the spring. I mean, it's so important that I named my podcast after that. It's a beautiful process.
You know, seasons are a part of lives, you know, whether we acknowledge that or not. And you know, I get in conversations with people about, you know, even seasons in relationships, you know, whether you're with someone and they break up, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. You know, they were there for a season in your life, you complemented each other. And I think that the more that we can sort of, you know, understand, you know, that's how nature works. But you know, I'm like you, patience. You know, I speak to patients, and you know, I speak to, you know, clients, whatever, about patience, and I, you know, find myself endlessly, you know, a week after treatment, I'm like, all right, well, how am I going to take over the world and, you know, cure cancer and world hunger, you know? And I find myself putting unrealistic expectations on myself, you know, and that's long seated for me. I've always been a 200%er, you know, like I'm going to do it even if it kills me. But you know, I've really been working on sitting in the moment, really sort of having conversations through journaling and things with myself. Is, you know, would I be putting this expectation on one of my breasties or one of my friends, you know, saying
exactly,
changing my name, changing, you know, me to a friend's name, and then going, well, I would never say that to them,
exactly.
you know. So I think it's, you know, a lot of it's self-learning, and but we just have to be so compassionate with ourselves, and it's hard because you know, there's so much blame that we put on ourselves for cancer as well. You know, why me? How? And then, you know, you go out and you want to prove that you're out the other side and taking on the world, and it's exhausting, you know. And I think that we need to sit and let ourselves bloom. That's the thing. A friend of mine the other day, you said a beautiful thing on one of my posts. It was, you know, we've lost touch with the art of doing nothing, you know. We live in a world of, you know, to be valuable you need to be productive, you know, that perception of that happening. And you know, especially in this moment right now, you know, we're in survival mode. We don't have to be producing anything. We need to be celebrating ourselves daily. If you get up and have a shower and you've cooked yourself a meal, high five, because that's more than 90% of people, you know. Totally. So we really need to adjust our expectations on ourselves, you know. So that's just, I'm in therapy once a week, and it's constant every week. Therapy is Wednesdays mornings. So I just had Karen, and we go through, you know, my plans, what I've been doing. She has me write down, you know, what my expectations were for the day, and then what actually I achieved. Because basically what she says to me, when I write my list, I have to have it and then have that again. And so the first, you know, quarter is like, okay, do that. And if the extra, everything else is just extra, the other half don't even touch, because it's that high achievement of, oh, well, I have to do that. So I just think, you know, in terms of, you know, world pandemic, and you know, the challenges that we're seeing all across the world with marginalised communities and people stepping up towards governments, you know, we've really got to be mindful of how we're looking after ourselves and our mind. But because what's happening right now is not natural. Us sitting on phones, and I'm not here to give anyone a lecture because, you know, I'm the worst, sitting on a spool of Twitter, Instagram, and watching live news as it happens, feeds of trauma, you know, all day, every day, hearing about a pandemic, and we're susceptible because, you know, we're at the
Mm-hmm,
community.
mm-hmm.
It's really tough on the mind. It's, you know, we're going through group trauma right now, you know, like community trauma.
Yeah.
And I just really, to anyone that's listening, you know, whatever you're feeling is normal. There's no handbook for what we're going through right now.
Right.
We've never been
Right.
through this moment before, you know.
Right.
So whatever you're feeling, it's okay. You know, feel it.
Right.
You
Right.
know, everyone has all of the emotions, a full scope. If you don't have a full scope of emotions, you're avoiding something. Do you know what I mean? So
Mm-mm.
anger is okay. Sadness is okay.
Yeah.
Happiness, you know.
Yeah.
So I think take the judgment out. Think about what we're living through, and if you decide that you want to spend the day in bed, celebrate that. Because, and we were speaking last week,
Yeah.
like, get back in bed, and I'm like, yes, because that's what you needed, you know.